Close your eyes for a moment. Go back to a memory from your childhood. Perhaps it's the smell of a cookie your grandmother used to bake, or the unique freshness of the earth after a summer rain. That indescribable mix of excitement and fear you felt riding your first bicycle. Where are these memories? In which dark corridor of our mind are they stored? And how is it that a scent, a sound, or a touch can suddenly bring them into the light? We are the sum of our memories. We are mosaics composed of the imprints left by the past, shaping our identity, our decisions, our joys, and our sorrows. Throughout our lives, we strive to remember more, to avoid forgetting. We study for exams, note down important dates, and try to etch the faces of our loved ones into our minds. We see forgetting as a flaw, a weakness, even an enemy. But what if I told you that forgetting is actually one of our brain's most sophisticated abilities? What if forgetting is not the enemy of memory, but its most loyal servant? The human brain is the most complex structure in the known universe. This immense network of approximately 86 billion neurons performs an incredible number of operations every second. One of the most mysterious of these processes is the mechanism of memory. Memory is not a passive video camera recording that stores the past. It is a dynamic, living, and constantly rewritten story. And our brain, the master storyteller, decides not only what to tell, but also what not to tell. On this journey, we will dive into the secret-filled world of memory. How is a memory born? Why are some memories as clear as glass, while others are lost behind a veil of fog? And most importantly, why does our brain choose to forget? We will explore the biological architecture of forgetting, why it is vital for our mental health, and what happens when this delicate balance is disturbed. As we wander through the corridors of memory, we will, in fact, be searching for the secret of who we are. Because if what we remember makes us who we are, then what we forget are the silent, invisible architects of our identity. If you're ready, an exploration into the deepest layers of your mind is about to begin. Development. It all starts with a moment. A face we see, a melody we hear, a flavor we taste. This sensory information flows into our brain as electrical signals. The first stop for this raw data is short-term memory. This is a temporary waiting room where information is held for a few seconds, or at most, a minute. What allows you to remember the beginning of this sentence you are reading now is your short-term memory. But this room is very small and is constantly being filled with new information. Here, our brain must make a choice. Is this information valuable? Is it worth keeping? At this point, a seahorse-shaped structure hidden deep within the brain, the hippocampus, takes the stage. The hippocampus is our brain's chief archivist. It evaluates incoming information, tags it according to its importance and emotional charge, and decides whether it should be sent to the cerebral cortex for permanent storage. This process is called consolidation. This operation takes place especially while we sleep, in the silence of deep slumber. The important memories we learned and experienced during the day are organized by the hippocampus and packaged to be placed on the shelves of long-term memory. So what makes a memory important? The answer is emotions. The amygdala, our brain's emotional center, works in close collaboration with the hippocampus. Memories charged with strong emotions like fear, happiness, or surprise are highlighted by the amygdala, almost as if with a fluorescent marker. The hippocampus sees this mark and says, "This event is important, never forget this." That's why we remember that life-changing phone call, the face of our first love, or a dangerous moment we experienced in vivid detail. Emotions are the ink of memories. The stronger they are, the more permanent the trace. A memory is not stored in a single point in the brain. It is scattered across different regions of the brain, like pieces of a puzzle. The smell of that cookie is coded in the olfactory cortex, its image in the visual cortex, and the happiness you felt at that moment in the emotional centers. When we recall a memory, Our brain reassembles these different pieces at an incredible speed to reconstruct that moment. Yes, you heard that right. Reconstructs. Because every act of remembering is, in fact, an act of recreation. This is why memories can change over time. Their details can become blurry, or we might unknowingly add new elements. Our memory is not a flawless recording device. It is a creative artist. We now understand how magnificent this complex system is. But what about the other side of the coin? Forgetting. We often think of it as a failure of memory, but science tells us a completely different story. Forgetting is not a passive process of decay. On the contrary, it is a process that the brain actively carries out, expends energy on, and is critically important for our mental health. Neuroscientists have discovered that there are at least two fundamental mechanisms of forgetting. The first is a process known as synaptic pruning. Memories live in the synapses, the connections between neurons. The more often we recall a memory, the stronger that synaptic pathway becomes. It's just like a path in the forest that becomes more distinct the more it's walked on. The paths of unused or deemed unimportant memories, however, weaken over time and are actively pruned by the brain. The brain clears out unnecessary connections to make room for new information and new memories. This is similar to a gardener pruning dead branches to help a plant grow healthier. Forgetting is the brain's way of self-optimizing and increasing its efficiency. Not remembering what you had for lunch last Tuesday is not a failure of your brain. On the contrary, it is proof of its ability to distinguish what is important from what is not. The second mechanism is even more fascinating. Active suppression. Our brain can deliberately push traumatic or painful memories into the background. The prefrontal cortex, the executive center of our brain, can actively prevent the hippocampus from recalling these memories. This is a defense mechanism developed to protect our mental health. Constantly reliving our worst memories would make life unsustainable. Forgetting gives us a chance to free ourselves from the burden of the past and look forward. It is the biological equivalent of time healing all wounds. What does this delicate balance, this elegant dance between remembering and forgetting, mean for us? When we examine what happens when this balance is broken, we better understand what a precious gift forgetting truly is. There are a few dozen people in the world with a very rare condition called hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory. These individuals can remember almost every day of their lives in extraordinary detail. Ask them any date from 20 years ago, and they can tell you what the weather was like, what they wore, and what they had for lunch. At first glance, this might seem like a superpower. But for those with this ability, the condition is often a curse. Every mistake, every embarrassing moment, every heartbreak is as vivid and fresh as if it happened yesterday. Their minds are constantly flooded with a stream of memories they cannot silence. They are deprived of the sweet relief of forgetting, the peace of leaving the past behind. Their situation reminds us of a harsh truth. The ability to forget is one of the fundamental pillars of our sanity. On the other side of the coin are memory loss conditions like amnesia and Alzheimer's disease. These are tragic processes where memory, and therefore identity, is slowly erased. One of the most famous cases in history is that of patient H.M., Henry Molaison. To stop his severe epileptic seizures, the hippocampal regions of his brain were surgically removed. The surgery stopped the seizures, but it had a terrible side effect. H.M. completely lost the ability to form new memories. He could remember his childhood, his old memories, but he wouldn't recognize a doctor he met 5 minutes after the surgery. Every day he would solve the same puzzle as if for the first time. His case taught the scientific world about the critical role of the hippocampus in sending new memories to long-term storage. The story of H.M. shows that memory is the thin thread connecting the present to the future, and when that thread breaks, a person becomes trapped in time. Alzheimer's is even more devastating. It not only prevents the formation of new memories, but also gradually erases existing memories stored in the cerebral cortex. The disease typically destroys memories in reverse chronological order. First, recent events are forgotten, then years, decades, and eventually, even the deepest childhood memories are erased. The unique mosaic of memories that makes a person human shatters, and the person's identity dissolves. To what extent can a person remain themselves when they lose their memories? This is the most painful and philosophical question raised by Alzheimer's. These diseases reveal just how fragile that sacred balance between memory and forgetting is, and how life can lose its meaning when it's disrupted. Our memory is not just a record of the past, it is the cornerstone of our very being. To protect it is to protect ourselves. Today's technology and science are making revolutionary strides in this field. We are now beginning to understand how memories are formed and erased at the molecular level. Through techniques like optogenetics, it has become possible to activate or erase specific memories in mice with light in a laboratory setting. These advancements hold incredible promise for treating memory-based disorders such as post-traumatic stress disorder, phobias, or chronic pain. Weakening or erasing a painful memory could change the lives of millions. However, this technology also brings with it deep ethical questions. If we had the power to erase a memory, how would we use that power? Wouldn't we also be erasing the lessons we learned from our mistakes? Would eliminating the painful experiences that shaped us also weaken our character? If we could edit our memory like a computer file, how real would the remaining us be? Memory is not just a biological function of our brain. It is also our most human aspect. It is flawed, selective, and deeply personal. Sometimes it deceives us, sometimes it hurts us, but it is always ours. We live with what we remember, and we heal with what we forget. The delicate balance between the two constitutes our unique story, our identity. This balance is one of the greatest gifts that nature, through millions of years of evolution, has bestowed upon us. Just as we value our memories, we must also recognize the freedom that forgetting brings. Because sometimes the greatest wisdom is not knowing what to remember, but being able to choose what to leave behind. Conclusion. As we approach the end of this journey into the depths of our minds, we have seen that memory is not a simple storage mechanism, but a living, breathing, ever-changing work of art. Our brain, the creator of this masterpiece, is both an archivist and a curator. It meticulously selects, combines, reinterprets, and sometimes consciously shelves certain pieces. We have set aside the common notion that forgetting is a weakness or a flaw. We have learned that it is one of the brain's most vital adaptive mechanisms. Forgetting is a cleaning process that makes room for us to learn, a filter that cleanses our minds of unnecessary burdens, and a shield that saves us from being trapped by the traumas of the past. It is a defense against the relentless flow of life, a biological grace given to us so we can step forward. We saw that when the balance of this system is disturbed, the crushing weight of remembering everything or the void of forgetting everything can be unbearable for the human spirit. Our identity is written on that fine line between what we remember and what we forget. Without these two complementary forces, we cannot exist. In the future, as our power to intervene in memory increases, we as humanity will face significant philosophical and ethical decisions. Who will decide which memories are worth keeping and which are worth erasing? In the name of protecting ourselves from pain, will we take the risk of eliminating the very lessons that make us who we are? The answers to these questions will require not only the wisdom of science, but the collective wisdom of all of society. Now close your eyes once more. Think of that mosaic of memories in your mind. Notice the bright, vibrant pieces, but also acknowledge the faded areas, the spaces filled with emptiness. Those empty spaces are not a deficiency. They are part of your story. They are the silent witnesses to the choices your brain made to protect you, to help you grow, and to make room for new memories. Because we are not just what we remember. We are also the sum of what we have managed to forget. Perhaps our true identity is not hidden in a perfect record of our memory, but in the flawed, poignant, and ultimately human story that our brain chooses to tell us every single day.